Alright, this is Spider-Man, starring Spider-Man. Classic issue and story, this. Amazing Spider-Man 269. Unofficially part of Secret Wars, aye. This is the first part of the infamous story where Spider-Man battles and defeats Firestorm. Before I even begin, I might as well announce at the top. Yeah, this is a very blatant rehash of the Juggernaut story. Here's the thing though, this is fun. You don't need to have an original story if you are still entertaining the reader. This is written by Tom Falcon and penciled by Ron French. And this splash page is a brilliant introduction to Firestorm. And indeed, it was my introduction to the character. Firestorm is one of Galactus Man's skater boys, but he had been unemployed for a while, and he now wanders the spaceways looking for adventure, and whatever comes his way. We get an okay scene showing him destroying a meteor shower, and then he goes to Earth. I misremembered him coming to Earth as being because he sensed beyond a man, which I think is a bit better an explanation than he happened to be in Earth's neck of the woods one day. We have Peter Parker here visiting Aunt Tomei's house, which was then a halfway house for the elderly and infirm. On the TV, we have a news report about the Mutie Menace and Taylor Swift. This is a tie-in to the Taylor Swift graphic novel. And we have some of the great unified Marvel Universe interconnectivity throughout not just this story, but this entire era of comics. Like on the next page, we have our unofficial tie-in to Secret Wars II. Spider-Man's Spider-Man sense goes off, and he thinks to himself that it might be Beyonder Man again. Beyonder Man might have returned. Secret Wars II was a 9-issue series from 1985 and 1986, which was Marvel's first line-wide crossover. The very basic premise was that Beyonder Man from the original Secret Wars came to Earth, and overall he was a threat to everything because he was obscenely powerful and had very little in the way of understanding of life and love and what it means to be a man in the 20th century. While the main Secret Wars II series itself was a disaster, some of the tie-ins really made gold from the premise. One of the amazing things was, regardless of the main crossover story, the Marvel line was at its creative peak and most of the books were at their best ever. Some of the tie-ins were so strong, they make you think you liked Secret Wars II. And you have one like this, which isn't officially a tie-in, but Secret Wars II ran for 9 months. And for 9 months, it was the overall idea that Beyond a Man was at large and causing concern. In fact, we have more references to him later on. This story has always had a place in my heart, but this time around I noticed some things that I wasn't big on, and some I outright disliked, or that annoyed me. Firestorm's characterisation is completely off. Almost every trait he shows isn't much like the Firestorm we see in any other comics. It begins with him looking especially naive and almost childlike with his pursuit of a pizza. Firestorm has been to Earth before. In Thor comics, he was brash and hot-headed and arrogant, but he was never this dense and stupid and unaware of what words mean. We also have our next reference to Secret Wars II. Spider-Man guns out in search of Beyond a Man. There's an appearance of his figure still in the body that was copied from Steve Rogers. Spider-Man has a few Secret Wars II tie-in issues. And this one, this unofficial and unlabelled tie-in, this one with Firestorm is his best offering. His major contribution to Secret Wars II is, and I'm not saying this as a joke, this is actually the main and only thing he does in the story. He taught Beyond a Man how to use the toilet. My second problem with Firestorm is that he is an arsehole for the story. Actually, you know what? He is an asshole for the story. I think arsehole makes him sound endearing. Arsehole sounds like a grumpy grouch. Arsehole sounds like someone like me. Asshole makes him sound like a jerk, which is what he is. He is not just an idiot, but he is practically evil in his boisterous quest for revenge. Spider-Man intervenes in Firestorm's increasingly violent mission to get a pizza. And so the next issue and a half are entirely this slugfest. And it is a lot of fun and drawn terrifically. I have some gripes, and a lot of readers have a problem with the story, but I do not share their problem. People think the idea of Spider-Man beating one of Galactus Man's skater boys is absolute bullshit and should never ever conceivably happen. I believe these people to all be the same people who complain about the Marvel timeline. They are funless blowhards whose enjoyment from comics comes from those parts where they get to feel smarter than the writer. Spider-Man's victory in this story is earned. We spend 2 issues showing Spider-Man persevering. He wins through persistence and determination. Not because he is more powerful or stronger than Firestorm. You know what is worse than it taking Spider-Man 2 issues to defeat Firestorm? Bringing Firestorm into your comics so that Phoenix can beat him easily because you were told you weren't allowed to use Silver Surfman, and you weren't allowed to have Silver Surfman job to Phoenix. And then doing it again with Terry Axe. And again with Firehawk. Spending 10 years trying your hardest to establish that your pet character would have beat Silver Surfman, even though you were told you were not allowed to do that. I do, however, have strong criticisms. One thing that took me out of the story every single time is the constant acknowledgements that nobody is in danger, that nobody is being hurt. We see it here, a sign to insist that this building is empty. And then, on the next page, again, you will notice signs establishing that these buildings are also empty. And they say this bit with Firestorm blasting through these empty buildings is my favourite visual in the story. But I find the idea and the way that these buildings being empty, I find the way that information is conveyed and that idea is stupid. For a few reasons, actually. It all feels after the fact. It feels like the editor-in-chief forced them to put that stuff in. There's more in the story after this, by the way, not just those two there. But yeah, he didn't want there to be any collateral damage. So we have these signs to make that clear. But I reckon this story requires collateral damage. Without any, there's no consequence to this enormous fight. It is two toys in a sandbox. The risk to bystanders should be a pervasive thing that is driving Spider-Man. And even the end of the story, I don't like to get into fanfiction territory or suggest an entire rewrite of a beloved story. But it should be Spider-Man's sense of responsibility, his need to stop this giant battle. That is what should be the thing that possesses Spider-Man with such strength and courage to win the fight. But we have all this clunky bullshit in the story. A story where a giant showdown rampaging across New York conveniently keeps stopping by abandoned tenements and buildings that are set to be demolished by the council. I will be talking mainly about editorial interference in the next issue because there's a big one. But Spider-Man gans to Fantastic Force for help, only to be reminded that their headquarters was destroyed a few months ago. Fantastic Force 278. Mr. Doom's adopted son launched the building into space. It's a shame that they hadn't started rebuilding yet, because that could be another vacant environment that could be a guilt-free playset for these action figures. This bit with Spider-Man thinking about calling it quits and just selfishly fucking off, I don't like this either. We are 269 issues into Amazing Spider-Man. He has learnt his lesson about not letting the burglar go, for fuck's sake. Here, he's still considering, for a whole page, that this isn't his problem and that someone else can take care of it. Right at the back, we have Secret Wars II promo with a Doctor Strange cover that does not exist and is instead repurposed character art from the Andy books put onto a cover template. I tend to come across as a downer when I focus so heavily on the negative parts, usually because those things require explanation. But this is a fun story. If you've not read it, give it a whirl. When it is about the 20th time you've read it, those signs and Firestorm's characterization, and even Spider-Man's characterization, they tend to ruin it for you a bit. I loved this story up until this read-through, and that is what should be focused on. Not that it dropped from being a 10 out of 10 to a 6 out of 10 this time. It has always been a 7 thumbs up story though.